Hi, I'm Allison Velez, and my website is winningyourrelationshipgame.com. This video series is my husband and I discussing a book called The State of Affairs, written by Esther Perel, who is a leading marriage and family therapist in the world at this point in time. I was interested to read her book. Affairs are a big problem in a lot of couples that I work with. I really wanted to discuss my thoughts about the book and get my husband's thoughts as well, as someone who's not in the field of psychology. So I hope you enjoy this series of conversations, and I'm going to jump back in when I have something that I feel like needs to be added. Thanks, and I hope you enjoy watching. Okay. So Esther Perel talks to us about affairs. So this is something that she wrote, and I just want to get your take on it, okay?
Okay.
So for modern love's idealists, the very act of explicitly addressing monogamy seems to call into question the assumption of specialness that is at the heart of the romantic dream. Once we have found the one, we believe there should be no need for, no desire for, and no attraction to any other. So what do you think about that?
I agree.
So you buy into the idealist notion that if you have found the right one,
Yes.
that you're never going to have any attraction or anything for
You
another
shouldn't
person.
go looking for anybody else.
Well, but that's different, right?
Uh-huh.
You know, making a choice to go looking for someone else is a different thing.
Right.
But do you feel like you never have any attraction for another person?
I hadn't thought about it.
So in all the almost 23 years that we've been married, you've never had any attraction towards anybody else. You never thought, wow, she's beautiful or anything like that.
She's maybe pretty, but I mean, that not anything that I would be trying to pursue.
Right.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But did you think that the fact that you found someone else attractive was evidence that I wasn't the one for you?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So
It's
you're
more than that.
right.
Yeah.
It's a normal thing for people to see other people and think that they're attractive and things like that, and it's not evidence that your relationship isn't right.
Correct.
Or
Right.
anything like that.
Mhm.
So, and I think the point that she makes throughout the book is our modern notion of love is that one person is sufficient to meet all of our needs. And historically, you know, that's not been the way that marriage was.
Right.
We had extended communities and different people who filled different needs for us. And the way that modern society has evolved, we now put all of that burden on our romantic partner, usually. And it's kind of a big burden to bear.
You got it all now. Mhm.
You're responsible for everything.
Yes.
So she kind of challenges the way that we think about love currently, and that we think if our thoughts, our feelings stray away from the fact that the one person is enough to satisfy us in all of our needs, that really that's a very recent evolution in our relationship stances. What do you think about that?
I think if you want the relationship to work, honestly want it to work, then you need to make it work that way. Both sides need to adjust so that they understand that it needs to work for both of us.
Right. And that also can look like a lot of different things, because you're assuming then that we have an agreement. I don't know that we've ever spoken our agreement, but I think our expectation of each other is that we're monogamous,
Mm-hmm.
and that we're not going to pursue any attraction that we might feel towards someone else,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
But, you know, there's a lot of varieties of relationships. There's open relationships and polyamorous relationships where, you know, more than two people are involved. And people who have those sorts of agreements can have a fully functioning relationship as well, but those are probably more explicit agreements than just a garden variety
Yes.
relationship. Yeah, but I don't think I could ever be secure enough to be in a polyamorous relationship or an open relationship. What do you think?
I don't think I am either.
I would always feel too threatened or fearful. And maybe that's my own hang-up, but...
We don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we have an explicit agreement.
Yes, on camera.
Okay. Well, there you go. That was the first segment of our conversation about the book, The State of Affairs by Esther Perel. You can probably tell that we enjoyed ourselves quite a bit and got a kick out of doing this kind of conversation with each other. I did want to bring up a couple of points about what we talked about in the video. The first thing is when I first read the passage from the book about how our idealist notion of what romantic relationships are now and how that has really evolved over time. And I think if you listen to the rest of the segments, that we go into that a little bit more and it becomes a little more clear. It's hard to think of everything in the moment when you're having an organic conversation the way that we did. But there are lots of different kinds of relationships in this world, and all of them have validity if they work for the people that are in the relationships. Now, we talked about having strictly a monogamous relationship, and that's what works for us. And I said I'm way too insecure to be involved in a relationship where there's what I might perceive as competition. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not always a risk of competition, but it's just an agreement, and now explicit, that we are in a monogamous relationship. We both have that expectation of each other. Doesn't mean that I'm never going to see someone that I think is attractive, and it doesn't mean that if that happens, that it totally means my relationship is worthless. So that was the whole point that I really wanted to make, is that you can want or need things that your partner can't necessarily provide to you, and that is not an indictment of them as a poor partner. It is not a judgment about the validity of your relationship, because that is a lot of burden to place on another person, that they would be responsible to meet every one of your needs. I think that we all have to be our own independent beings as well as being in a relationship with someone else. So I don't want to negate any other relationship structure, because I've known people who have had other types of relationships that have worked for them. I've also had people in other types of relationships where the relationship failed, but I've also had people who have been in very traditional monogamous relationships that also have failed. So I don't know even if there's any statistics out there about what type of relationships are most successful. I think the most successful relationships are one where both partners feel secure and that they have a level of trust, that their expectations for each other are going to be met. But just like with us, when we've been married for a long time, we've never explicitly stated what we expected from our partners in terms of monogamy. And maybe we've done that with some other things, but most of our agreements, and that's for everybody, in most relationship agreements, contracts are made, they're implied, they're not explicit. And if you have something that you just believe that's the way it should be in a relationship, it might be worthwhile to explicitly talk about that with your partner. So I'm interested to know if you've been in a relationship where you noted that your expectation might have been different from your partner's expectation around monogamy or around the type of relationship that you were involved in. Have you ever been in a non-traditional relationship that you felt was healthy? So has there ever been a relationship in your past where you did explicitly discuss with your partner what your expectations were? Have you ever talked about that in your current relationship? Just curious to see where everyone is on that, because it was something that we had never discussed prior to this day that we did this taping. So let me know your thoughts, and I hope that you enjoyed the conversation, and please do listen in for the next one. Thanks, and have a great day.